Nobody noticed the small human at first. He stood near the back of the transport shuttle while 40 alien cadets pushed their way toward the exit ramp. Danny Reyes was 16 years old, barely reaching the chest height of the smallest creature around him. He carried one bag. He spoke to no one. Station Meridian hung in the void between 3 star systems. The Galactic Combat Academy had trained warriors here for over 2,000 years. Every species in the Conquered sent their strongest youth to learn the art of battle. Until today, no human had ever walked through its gates. Danny stepped onto the main platform and felt the artificial gravity pull at his bones. It was lighter than Earth. Everything here would be lighter than Earth. He had read the reports. He knew what the aliens thought of his homeworld. They called it a paradise planet, green and blue, full of water and life. They assumed humans were soft because they came from such a gentle place. They had never seen a hurricane. They had never run from a forest fire. They had never watched a lion hunt. A massive reptilian creature blocked his path. It stood nearly 3 meters tall with scales the color of dried blood and eyes like molten gold. A Gorath. Danny recognized the species from his studies. They were considered the finest warriors in the known galaxy. "You are the human," the Gorath said. Its voice rumbled like distant thunder. "Yes." "You are small." "Yes." The Gorath made a sound that might have been laughter. "Barracks 9, follow the red line, try not to die before orientation." Danny followed the red line painted on the floor. He passed through corridors filled with cadets from dozens of species. The insectoid Vrelish clicked their mandibles as he walked by. The sleek Sylvani turned their blade-shaped limbs toward him with casual menace. Everyone stared. Everyone whispered. Barracks 9 was the lowest-ranked housing in the academy. Danny found his room at the end of a long hallway. Inside, a young Gorath sat on one of the 2 beds. This one was smaller than the adult Danny had met earlier, but still twice his size. "I am Brull," the Gorath said. "You are my roommate." "Danny." Brull looked him up and down. Then he laughed. It was not a kind laugh. "They gave me a human. The academy insults me with a human." Danny said nothing. He placed his bag on the empty bed and began unpacking. "Do you not speak?" Brull demanded. "When I have something to say." Orientation took place in a massive arena at the heart of the station. Commander Thesson stood on a raised platform in the center. She was Sylvani, her body covered in natural armor that ended in razor-sharp edges. Her voice carried across the gathered cadets without any need for amplification. "You are here to become warriors, not soldiers, not fighters, warriors. There is a difference. A soldier follows orders. A fighter wins battles. A warrior becomes something more, something eternal." She explained the academy's system. Cadets earned rank through combat trials. At the end of each training cycle, the bonded warriors would attend a ceremony. These legendary fighters could choose any cadet they wished as an apprentice. Being selected meant a future of glory. Being ignored meant returning home in shame. "The most honored among the bonded is Kryn of the Gorath," Commander Thesson continued. "He has never been defeated. He has trained here for 30 cycles. He has never chosen an apprentice. Perhaps one of you will change that. Perhaps none of you are worthy." Danny listened carefully. He watched the other cadets puff out their chests and flex their natural weapons. The Vrelish sharpened their claws against each other. The Sylvani let light dance along their blade limbs. The Gorath simply stood like mountains, confident in their raw strength. He noticed an old Gorath watching from a balcony above the arena. This one was different from the others. Scars covered his scales in patterns that told stories of 100 battles. One of his eyes was missing. His remaining eye swept across the crowd of cadets with cold assessment. Kryn, it had to be Kryn. For just a moment that single eye stopped on Danny. Then it moved on. The first meal was served in a hall that could hold 1,000 cadets. Danny carried his tray toward an empty table in the corner. He never reached it. A Vrelish cadet stepped into his path. Its exoskeleton was bright green, marking it as young, and its mandibles clacked with amusement. "Look at this. The soft one thinks it can eat with warriors." Two more Vrelish appeared behind Danny. One of them knocked the tray from his hands. Food scattered across the floor. "Pick it up," the green one said. "Eat from the ground where you belong." Danny looked at the scattered food. He looked at the Vrelish. The entire hall had gone quiet. Everyone was watching to see what the human would do. He knelt down, he picked up his food. He placed it back on his tray. Then he stood, walked around the Vrelish, and found another table. He ate in silence. The laughter that followed him was loud and cruel. "The soft one," the cadets repeated to each other. "He does not even fight back. Humans are not warriors, they are prey." Danny finished his meal. He did not look up, he did not react. But across the hall, the old Gorath with one eye had stopped eating. Kryn watched the small human with an expression that no one could read. He had seen warriors from every species in the galaxy. He had defeated them all. None of them had ever interested him enough to teach. This small creature who bent down to pick up his food instead of fighting. This human who ate quietly while an army mocked him. This boy who showed no anger, no fear, no shame. Kryn had seen something in that moment, something the others had missed. He had seen patience. He had seen control. He had seen a predator waiting for its moment. The old warrior made a decision. He would watch this human closely. He would see if his instinct was correct. And if it was, everything would change. 3 weeks changed nothing and everything. Danny Reyes remained at the bottom of every ranking list. He could not match the raw strength of the Gorath. He could not match the blinding speed of the Sylvani. He could not break through the armored shells of the Vrelish. In every training session, he lost. In every combat trial, he fell. But he always got back up. The instructors had stopped paying attention to him. Why would they? He was a political gesture, nothing more. Earth had joined the Galactic Conquered 6 months ago. Sending a human to the academy was meant to show good faith. Nobody expected him to actually become a warrior. Combat training took place in circular pits carved into the station floor. Cadets fought in pairs while instructors watched from above. Today, Danny faced Sketh, the green Vrelish who had knocked his food tray on the first day. "Try not to bleed too much, soft one," Sketh clicked. "It makes the floors sticky." The fight lasted 40 seconds. Sketh moved like liquid violence, his exoskeleton absorbing every punch Danny threw while his claws opened cuts across the human's arms and chest. Danny tried to find an angle, tried to use the techniques he had studied, but nothing worked. Sketh pinned him to the ground and pressed a claw against his throat. "Yield." "I yield." The Vrelish stood and walked away without another word. Danny lay on the floor of the pit, bleeding from a dozen wounds, staring at the ceiling. No one came to help him. No one ever did. He pulled himself up and walked to the medical bay. The doctor was Vrelish, old and gray, with a clinical detachment that bordered on boredom. She sealed his wounds with a biological paste and scanned his vital signs. Then she stopped. She scanned him again. "Your healing rate," she said, "it is unusually fast for your species. Humans heal quickly when we are young." "Interesting," she made a note in her records. "You may go." Danny went, but not to his barracks. Instead, he found his way to an abandoned training room in the lower levels of the station. He had discovered it during his second week, a forgotten space filled with old equipment that nobody used anymore. Here alone he trained. He practiced the movements he observed from other species. Gorath strikes that used weight and momentum. Sylvani footwork that turned defense into offense. Vrelish joint locks that could immobilize creatures twice their size. He adapted each technique to his smaller body, changing angles, adjusting timing. He was not the strongest, he was not the fastest, but he could think, and he could learn. "You should not be here." Danny spun around. A Sylvani stood in the doorway. She was small for her species, barely taller than him, and one of her blade limbs hung at an awkward angle, clearly damaged since birth. "Neither should you," Danny said. The Sylvani made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I am Myra. I have seen you training here before. You think no one notices, but I notice." "Are you going to report me?" No, she stepped into the room. I am going to ask why you keep trying. You cannot win. Everyone knows this. So why do you not simply wait out your time and go home? Danny considered the question. He thought about his mother back on Earth, working in her garage, fixing machines that everyone else had given up on. He thought about her words when she hugged him goodbye at the transport station. Where I come from, he said, we have a saying, it is not about being the strongest, it is about not staying down. Myra tilted her head. That is a strange philosophy. Maybe, but I am still here. That means something. She studied him for a long moment. Then she picked up one of the training weapons from the floor and tossed it to him. Show me what you have learned. They trained together until the station lights dimmed for night cycle. The following week brought the first survival exercise. Cadets were dropped into the station's lower levels, a maze of maintenance tunnels and abandoned sections where the life support systems were unstable and predatory maintenance drones roamed freely. The goal was simple: survive for 12 hours, return to the surface. Danny was assigned to a squad with 4 Vrelish cadets. They made their contempt clear immediately. Stay behind us, soft one. Do not slow us down. If you fall behind, we leave you. They fell behind him instead. 3 hours into the exercise, the squad encountered a nest of maintenance drones. These were old models, malfunctioning, treating everything organic as a threat to be eliminated. The Vrelish attacked with their usual confidence. They were overwhelmed in seconds. Drones swarmed from every direction, their cutting tools spinning, their sensors locked onto the largest heat signatures. The Vrelish scattered and ran, leaving Danny alone in the corridor. 6 drones turned toward him. Danny did not run. He could not outrun them anyway. Instead, he looked at the walls around him. Power conduits, junction boxes, old wiring that probably had not been inspected in decades. His mother had taught him about machines. She had taught him that everything had a weakness if you knew where to look. He grabbed a loose panel from the wall and jammed it into the nearest junction box. Sparks exploded outward. The lights flickered. 3 drones stopped moving immediately, their systems overloaded by the power surge. The remaining 3 came at him faster. Danny dove under the first one, rolling across the floor, grabbing a piece of broken drone, and using it to deflect the cutting arm of the second. He kicked the third one into the wall, hard enough to crack its sensor array, then drove his improvised weapon into its power core. 2 drones left. His arm was bleeding where one had cut him. His vision was blurry from hitting his head during the roll, but he kept moving. He led them to another junction box, another surge, another 2 drones falling silent. 12 hours later, Danny emerged from the lower levels. He was the only member of his squad to complete the exercise without calling for emergency extraction. The instructors did not acknowledge his achievement, but the footage was recorded, and someone was watching. Kryn sat in his quarters, reviewing the security feeds from the lower levels. He watched the small human face 6 drones alone. He watched him think while he fought, using his environment, adapting to each new threat, refusing to give up even when he was injured. No cadet had ever disabled a maintenance drone before. This human had destroyed 3. Kryn pulled up Danny's file. He read about Earth. He read about the human home world that the Conquered had classified as a garden planet. He read, and he began to suspect that the classification was very, very wrong. He submitted a request for more detailed information. Then he waited and he watched. The ranking trials began on the first day of the 4th month. Every cadet in the academy would fight their way up the hierarchy through single combat. Those who reached the top would have the honor of being seen by the bonded warriors. Those who stayed at the bottom would be forgotten. Danny Reyes started at rank 412 out of 415 cadets. His first opponent was a young Vrelish named Krell, smaller than most of his species, near the bottom of the rankings himself. The fight was scheduled for early morning when the arena was mostly empty. No one important would watch 2 low-ranked cadets struggle against each other. Krell attacked immediately. He had speed and natural armor. He had claws that could tear through metal. He had everything Danny lacked. But Danny had learned something in his weeks of secret training. He had learned to wait. Krell's strikes came fast at first. Danny blocked what he could and dodged what he could not. He took hits that would have dropped most cadets. A claw raked across his ribs. A kick sent him stumbling backward. Blood dripped from cuts on his face and arms. But he did not fall. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Krell's movements began to slow. His breathing grew heavy. The Vrelish were built for quick kills, not extended combat. Their bodies overheated. Their muscles burned through energy reserves. At 15 minutes, Krell could barely lift his arms. Danny was still standing, wounded, exhausted, but standing. He moved forward, one punch to the thorax, a sweep of the legs, an elbow to the nerve cluster at the base of the skull. Krell collapsed and did not get up. The instructor marked Danny's victory without comment, but word spread through the academy by midday. The soft one had won a fight. He had done it by refusing to lose. More fights followed. Danny climbed the rankings slowly but steadily. He could not defeat the strongest opponents through skill or power, but he could outlast them. Human endurance was something the Academy had never encountered before. Where other species tired after minutes of intense combat, Danny could fight for an hour. He reached the middle of the rankings by the end of the second week. Cadets who had ignored him before now watched him with cautious eyes. He was still weak. He was still slow, but he would not stop. "You are becoming famous," Myra told him during one of their secret training sessions. "The soft one who will not fall." "I just want to survive." "You want more than that, I can see it. You want to prove something." Danny did not answer. He threw another punch at the training dummy, imagining Sketh's face. Sketh had been watching Danny's rise with growing anger. The green Vrelish had been humiliated when his squad abandoned Danny in the lower levels, and Danny survived alone. He had been further humiliated when Danny began winning fights that everyone expected him to lose. On the third week of the ranking trials, Sketh submitted a formal petition. He invoked an ancient academy tradition, a grudge match. The rules were simple. 2 cadets entered the arena. They fought until one of them could not continue. There was no time limit. There was no mercy. Commander Thesson approved the petition. She had no reason to deny it. Sketh was within his rights. Danny heard the news from Brull, who had started treating him with something approaching respect. "You should withdraw from the academy," Brull said. "Sketh will kill you. This is not sparring. This is not training. He wants your blood." "I know. Then why will you not run?" Danny looked at his roommate. The young Gorath had grown over the past months. He was bigger now, stronger, but there was something in his eyes that Danny recognized. Fear, not for himself, for Danny. "Because if I run now," Danny said, "everything I have done means nothing. Every hit I took, every fight I survived, all of it becomes worthless." The grudge match took place in the main arena. Every cadet in the academy attended. The bonded warriors watched from their balcony above. Even Kryn was there, his single eye fixed on the small human who walked to the center of the sand-covered floor. Sketh was waiting. His exoskeleton gleamed under the arena lights. His claws had been sharpened to deadly points. "Any last words, soft one?" Danny raised his fists. "Let us find out who is soft." Sketh attacked. The first blow broke Danny's arm. The sound echoed through the silent arena like a gunshot. Danny stumbled but did not fall. He shifted his stance, guarding his broken limb with his body, keeping his working arm raised. The crowd watched in disbelief. He should have yielded. Any sane creature would have yielded. Sketh struck again and again. Each blow opened new wounds. Each strike drove Danny back a step. Blood pooled on the sand. Danny's left eye swelled shut. His ribs cracked under a savage kick. But he would not fall. 10 minutes became 20. Sketh's attacks grew slower as confusion replaced his rage. Why would the human not stop? Why did he keep standing? This was impossible. This was unnatural. Danny could barely see. He could barely breathe. His broken arm hung useless at his side. But somewhere deep inside him, something ancient woke up. Something that remembered 10,000 years of human survival. Something that refused to die. He blocked Sketh's next strike with his broken arm, screaming as the bone shifted inside his flesh. The Vrelish hesitated for just a moment, shocked by the act of self-destruction. Danny hit him with everything he had left. It was not enough to knock Sketh down. It was not enough to win. But it was enough to make the Vrelish step back, to make him realize that this fight might cost him more than he was willing to pay. Sketh raised his claw for the killing blow. His eyes were wild with frustration and fear. He would end this now. Enough. The word stopped everything. Every cadet froze. Every instructor held their breath. Kryn walked into the arena. The legendary warrior had not entered a training ring in 15 years. He had not spoken publicly in even longer. Now he stood between Danny and Sketh, his massive, scarred body blocking the Vrelish's attack. "This match is over," Kryn said. "He has not yielded," Sketh protested. "I have the right." "He has proven what he needed to prove. You have proven nothing." Kryn turned to look at Danny. The human was swaying on his feet, blood dripping from wounds that would have killed most cadets. But his eyes were still open. His fists were still raised. "This one," Kryn announced to the silent, "arena has something none of you possess. He does not know how to break. I claim him as my apprentice." The crowd erupted into chaos. Bonded warriors never declared their choice during the ranking trials. They always waited for the ceremony. This violated every tradition the Academy held sacred. Commander Thesson moved to the edge of the balcony. "Kryn, this is highly irregular." "I am within my rights. Any bonded warrior may claim any cadet at any time." His single eye swept across the balcony. "Unless someone wishes to challenge my claim." 3 warriors stepped forward. A Gorath, a Sylvani, a Vrelish. They stood at the edge of the balcony, staring down at the human who could barely stand. "We challenge," they said in unison. "The human must prove he is worthy of the greatest among us." Danny heard the words through a haze of pain. He saw Kryn turn back to him, saw something that might have been pride in that ancient, scarred face. Then the darkness took him. Danny woke in the medical bay 3 days later. His arm had been set and sealed in a regeneration cast. His ribs were wrapped in healing mesh. His face was still swollen, but he could see from both eyes again. Kryn sat in a chair beside his bed. The old Gorath looked as if he had not moved in all 3 days. "You are awake," Kryn said. "Good, we have much to discuss." "What happened after I passed out?" "The Council of Warriors declared a crucible. The 3 who challenged my claim have each designed a trial for you. If you pass all 3, you become my apprentice. If you fail, you are sent home in disgrace." Danny tried to sit up. Pain shot through his body, but he forced himself upright. "When do the trials begin?" 7 days, when the doctors say you are healed enough to walk." "I will be ready in 3. Kryn made a sound that might have been a laugh. "I believe you will." They talked through the night. Kryn told Danny about the Gorath warrior philosophy, about the difference between strength and will, about the lessons he had learned in 30 years of combat. "I have refused every apprentice who came before you," Kryn said. "Do you want to know why?" "Yes." "Because they all had the same weakness. They believed that strength was enough. They believed that if they were bigger or faster or more skilled, they would always win. But I have seen the strongest warriors fall. I have seen the most skilled fighters lose to opponents who should have been nothing." He leaned forward, his single eye burning with intensity. "The only thing that matters in the end is will, the refusal to break. I searched for 30 years for someone who understood this. Then I watched a small human pick up his food from the floor and eat it without shame. I watched him face 6 drones alone and refuse to run. I watched him stand against Sketh with a broken arm and keep fighting." "I lost that fight," Danny said. "You survived that fight. There is no loss in survival. There is only continuing forward." The trials began on the 7th day. Danny walked into the arena with his arm still in a cast and his ribs still aching. The entire academy had gathered to watch. The first trial was designed by the Vrelish Challenger, a maze of corridors filled with pain-inducing fields. Every wrong turn would trigger nerve-stimulating energy that would make Danny feel as if his body was on fire. He had to navigate to the center and retrieve a marker. Danny entered the maze. The first wrong turn hit him like a lightning bolt. He screamed and fell to his knees. The watching cadets laughed. He got back up. He did not run through the maze like the Vrelish expected. Instead, he moved slowly. He tested each path. He remembered which turns caused pain and which did not. He mapped the maze in his mind, building a picture of the safe route one step at a time. It took 4 hours. He triggered the pain fields 23 times, but he reached the center. He retrieved the marker. He walked out of the maze on his own feet. The second trial was designed by the Sylvany Challenger. Danny had to land a single blow on a Sylvany Blade Master. The warrior was old, experienced, faster than anything Danny had ever faced. Her blades moved like liquid silver. Danny attacked. He missed. He attacked again. He missed again. For 2 hours, he threw punches and kicks at a target that was never where he aimed. His body burned with exhaustion. His wounds reopened from the strain. But he watched. Every time he missed, he learned something. He saw patterns in her movements. He noticed that she always shifted left after a high block. He noticed that she paused for just a heartbeat before each counterattack. On his 300th attempt, Danny did something stupid. He threw a punch that he knew would miss. When the Blade Master shifted left, he was already moving. He reached out and grabbed her blade with his bare hand. The blade cut deep into his palm. Blood ran down his arm, but his fingers closed around the metal, stopping her movement for just a second. His other fist connected with her chest. The arena fell silent. Danny released her blade and stepped back, his hand dripping red onto the sand. The Blade Master stared at him with something like respect. "The trial is complete," Commander Thesson announced. "The human has succeeded." The third trial was designed by the Gorath Challenger. Danny had to face a Gorath warrior in unarmed combat and remain standing for 5 minutes. The warrior chosen for this task was Kryn himself. Danny understood immediately. This was not just a test. It was a message. The challengers wanted to show that Kryn's belief in Danny was misplaced. They wanted Kryn to destroy his own chosen apprentice. They did not understand Kryn at all. The fight began. Kryn did not hold back. His first strike knocked Danny across the arena. His second cracked the healing cast on Danny's arm. His third drove all the air from Danny's lungs. But Danny got back up every time. He used everything he had learned. Gorath endurance to absorb the punishment. Sylvany footwork to avoid the worst of the blows. Vrelish joint techniques to redirect Kryn's force. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3. Danny's vision blurred. His legs threatened to give out. Blood ran from his nose and mouth. Kryn's strikes were relentless, each one harder than the last. 4 minutes. Danny fell. He could not feel his body anymore. His mind screamed at him to stay down, to accept defeat, to end the pain. He thought of his mother. He thought of Earth. He thought of every person who had ever told him he was not strong enough. He stood up. Kryn hit him again. He fell again. He stood again. 5 minutes. The timer sounded. The trial was complete. Danny stood in the center of the arena, swaying like a tree in a storm, unable to see, unable to think, but standing. Kryn knelt before him. The legendary warrior who had never bowed to anyone placed his fist on the ground in the Gorath gesture of ultimate respect. "You are worthy," Kryn said. "You are my legacy now." From the balcony, the Vrelish Challenger shouted his objection. "This proves nothing. Humans are unnatural. They use drugs to ignore pain. Their blood must be tested." Commander Thesson raised her hand for silence. "The challenge is within Academy law. The human will be tested until the results are confirmed. He is confined to quarters." Guards came to escort Danny away. He went without protest. He had nothing left to give. But as they led him from the arena, he saw his friends watching from the crowd. Myra with her damaged blade limb raised in salute, Brull with tears in his massive Gorath eyes. And Kryn still kneeling on the sand, waiting for the truth that would change everything. The isolation chamber was small and cold. Danny sat on the metal bed, staring at the ceiling, counting the hours. 3 days until the blood test results. 3 days to wonder if everything he had survived would mean nothing. The Vrelish Challenger had spread rumors through the academy. Humans were artificial, he claimed. Genetically modified creatures designed in laboratories. Their ability to ignore pain was chemical, not natural. Their endurance was mechanical, not biological. Many cadets believed him. It was easier to believe that Danny was a cheat than to accept that a human could truly be this strong. Myra came to visit on the second night. She slipped past the guards using maintenance corridors she had mapped during her own time as an outcast. "The academy is divided," she told Danny through the small window in his door. "Some cadets have started defending you. Brull nearly killed a Vrelish who called you a fake." "How is Kryn?" "He waits, he does not speak, he simply waits." Danny pressed his hand against the cold metal of the door. "Do you believe I am natural?" Myra was quiet for a long moment. "I watched you grab a blade with your bare hand. I watched you stand up after Kryn knocked you down a dozen times. I do not know what humans are, but I know what I saw. I saw someone who does not quit." She left before the guards could find her. Danny returned to counting the hours. On the third day, Commander Thesson appeared at his door with a contingent of medical officers and council members. They escorted Danny to the main assembly hall. The entire academy had gathered. Thousands of cadets and instructors filled the seats. The bonded warriors watched from their balcony. Kryn stood alone on the arena floor. He had not moved from that spot since Danny's isolation began. "The blood test results are confirmed," Commander Thesson announced. "Danny Reyes is completely unmodified. He carries no genetic enhancements. He shows no traces of chemical stimulants. His cellular structure is entirely natural." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. The Vrelish Challenger pushed his way to the balcony railing. "Then explain how he did what he did. No natural creature can ignore that much pain." "That is exactly what we intend to explain." Commander Thesson gestured to the medical officers. "When we analyzed the human's biology, we discovered something that required us to review our entire classification system for his homeworld." A massive holographic display appeared above the arena. It showed a planet of blue oceans and green continents. Earth. 17 years ago, when humanity made first contact with the conquered, we classified their homeworld as a garden planet. Moderate climate, abundant water, rich with life. We assumed humans were products of a gentle environment. The display changed. New data scrolled across the screen. Images began to appear, a massive storm system covering half a continent, a mountain spewing fire into the sky, a wave taller than any building humans had ever built. We were wronged. More images, a creature with massive teeth hunting in golden grass, a snake coiled around prey twice its size, tiny insects that could kill with a single bite. Earth is not a garden planet. Earth is a death world, one of the most hostile environments ever catalogued in conquered space. The crowd fell silent. Even the bonded warriors leaned forward to listen. Gravity 14% higher than conquered standard. Extreme temperature variations. Predators in every ecosystem. Diseases that mutate faster than most species can adapt. Natural disasters that reshape the landscape without warning. Commander Thesson turned to face the assembly. Humans did not evolve in paradise. They evolved in a constant state of war against their own planet. Every generation faced extinction. Every child learned to survive or die. Their biology reflects this history. Their pain tolerance is not chemical. It is evolutionary. Their endurance is not mechanical. It is survival instinct bred into their genes across millions of years. She pointed at Danny. This human is not enhanced. He is baseline. He represents what every human is capable of under stress. We have been measuring him against our own standards and finding him weak. We should have been measuring ourselves against his standards and asking why we are so fragile. The Vrelish challenger would not accept it. He leaped from the balcony, landing on the arena floor, his claws extended toward Danny. I do not care about classifications. He humiliated my squad. He humiliated me. I demand satisfaction. You demand nothing, Kryn said. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the entire hall. The human has passed every trial. He has proven his worth. Your challenge is over. Then I challenge him outside Academy law, personal combat to the death. Commander Thesson moved to intervene, but Kryn raised his hand to stop her. This is not your fight, the old warrior said. It is his. All eyes turned to Danny. He looked at the Vrelish who had tormented him since his first day. He thought about everything he had endured, the humiliation, the pain, the endless mockery. He stepped forward. I accept. The fight lasted 11 seconds. Danny did not hold back. He did not fight like a cadet trying to survive. He fought like a human from a death world. He moved inside the Vrelish's guard before the creature could react. He struck the nerve clusters he had learned to target during his secret training. He used joint locks adapted from Vrelish techniques against their creator. He finished with an elbow to the throat that dropped the challenger to the sand. The Vrelish did not get up. Danny stood over his fallen enemy, breathing hard, his fist still raised. The arena was absolutely silent. Kryn walked to his side. The old Goreth placed a massive hand on Danny's shoulder. Now you understand, Kryn said quietly. You were never weak. You were simply waiting for the right moment to show your strength. Commander Thesson raised her voice. By the laws of this academy and the traditions of the bonded warriors, I declare Danny Ray's the rightful apprentice of Kryn of the Gorath. Let none challenge this bond. A cheer rose from the crowd, not from everyone but from enough. Myra's voice, Brull's roar, other cadets who had watched Danny's journey and finally understood. Then the alarms began. Red lights flashed across the arena. The station shuddered as something massive struck its outer hull. Commander Thesson's communicator screamed with emergency signals. All cadets to defensive positions. We are under attack. Unknown fleet at the station perimeter. Kryn's eye narrowed. Danny saw something he had never seen on the old warrior's face before. Fear. The hollow, Kryn whispered. They have returned. The station shook again as another blast struck the outer ring. Ceiling panels crashed to the floor. Cadets screamed and ran for their assigned defensive positions. The hollow had not attacked the conquered in 300 years. Most species had forgotten they existed. Now they had returned, and they had chosen the academy as their first target. Danny followed Kryn through burning corridors. The old warrior moved with purpose, cutting down the mechanical invaders that poured through breached airlocks. The hollow were nightmares of metal and wire, humanoid shapes that had once been living creatures before the machine consciousness consumed them. Why the academy? Danny shouted over the explosions. They are hunting warriors, Kryn replied. Destroy the next generation before they can fight. Classic hollow strategy. They are patient. They plan centuries ahead. They reached the main junction where the corridors split toward different sections of the station. Myra was already there, her damaged blade limb held ready alongside her good one. Brull stood beside her, his scales scorched from combat but his eyes fierce. We came to find you, Myra said. The instructors are evacuating non-combat cadets. The bonded warriors are making a stand at the reactor level. Why the reactor? Danny asked. Kryn's face darkened. Because the hollow want it. They want to trigger a cascade explosion, destroy the station, kill everyone aboard. They fought their way down. Hollow soldiers poured from every ventilation shaft and maintenance tunnel. Danny had never seen Kryn truly fight before. The old Gorath was devastating, his fists crushing metal skulls, his body absorbing damage that would have killed any other creature. But even legends could not fight forever. They reached the reactor level to find a massacre. Bonded warriors lay scattered across the floor, some dead, others too wounded to continue. The Hollow had brought something worse than soldiers. A command unit, massive and ancient, its body fused from dozens of species it had consumed over centuries. Kryn charged. He fought with everything he had. Danny, Myra, and Brull joined him, attacking the command unit from every angle while smaller Hollow tried to interfere. They brought it down, but the cost was terrible. Kryn collapsed against the reactor wall, his scales cracked and bleeding, one arm hanging useless. The younger warriors gathered around him. "The reactor," Kryn gasped. "They breached the core the Cascade has." "Started, we have minutes." Danny looked through the observation window. Inside the reactor core, energy spiraled out of control. Warning lights flashed red. The countdown had begun. "Can it be stopped?" "Only from inside, manual override, but the radiation." Kryn shook his head. "No species can survive long enough. The Sylvani would die in 30 seconds, the Gorath in 45, the Vrelish." "What about humans?" Kryn went silent. His single eye found Danny's face. "Your species can absorb lethal radiation doses and continue functioning for several minutes. Long enough, perhaps. But you would die, Danny. Even conquered medicine could not save you from that exposure." "Then I go." "No," Kryn tried to rise, but his body failed him. "I forbid it. You are my apprentice, my legacy. I will not lose you." Danny knelt beside his master. He placed his hand on Kryn's scarred chest. "You taught me that strength is not about winning. It is about refusing to break. You taught me that will matters more than survival. You taught me that a true warrior chooses what is right over what is safe." He stood. "I am not breaking, I am choosing." "Danny." "There is a tradition among apprentices, yes. We can make one choice that our master cannot override. I am making that choice now." Kryn's eye filled with something Danny had never seen there before. Pride, grief, love. "You are the finest warrior I have ever known," the old Gorath whispered. "You are everything I hoped to find." Danny turned to Myra and Brull. "Get him out of here. Get everyone you can to the escape pods." Myra grabbed his arm. "You cannot do this. We just found each other. We finally have a place where we belong." "You gave me that place," Danny said. "Now I am going to make sure it survives." He walked to the reactor door. He entered his access code. The door opened and radiation flooded out in an invisible wave. Danny stepped inside. The pain hit immediately. His cells began to die. His nervous system screamed. But his legs kept moving. His hands kept working. He reached the manual override panel and began the shutdown sequence. The radiation was tearing him apart from the inside. His vision darkened. His fingers grew numb. He made mistakes. He corrected them. He kept going. Step by step, second by second, refusing to stop. He thought about his mother, about Earth, about all the humans who would never know about this moment, about the species that had mocked him and the friends who had believed in him. He thought about what it meant to be human, to come from a death world, to face extinction every day and never give up. The final command, the override completed, the cascade stopped. Danny collapsed on the reactor floor. The door behind him burst open. Kryn crashed through it, radiation burning his scales, his one good arm reaching for his apprentice. Everything went dark. Danny woke up. That fact surprised him more than anything else. He was floating in a medical pod filled with healing gel. Machines beeped around him. Tubes ran into his arms. His entire body ached in ways he could not describe. Kryn sat beside the pod. The old warrior looked worse than Danny felt. 3 weeks, Kryn said. "You have been unconscious for 3 weeks. The doctors thought you would die. They had never treated radiation poisoning this severe. They invented new procedures just to keep you alive. The station, saved because of you." Danny tried to move. Pain shot through him. He stopped trying. "The scars will be permanent," Kryn continued. The radiation damage, you will carry it forever, but you will live, you will fight again. Good. Kryn made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. Good, that is all you say, good. What else is there to say? The old warrior reached into the pod and placed his massive hand over Danny's heart. You are my legacy now, truly, not because I chose you, but because you chose to save us all. When you are healed, you will stand beside me, you will teach, you will lead, and when I am gone, you will carry everything I know into the future. 1 year later, Danny Reyes stood in the main arena. His body was scarred. His movements were slower than before, but his eyes burned with the same fire they always had. Before him stood a new class of cadets, hundreds of young warriors from every species in the Conquered, and among them 3 humans. Earth had sent more, inspired by stories of the human who refused to fall. They told me I did not belong here, Danny said. They said humans were too soft, too small, too weak. He walked among the cadets, meeting their eyes one by one. They were wrong, and if you stay standing, you will prove them wrong too, not by being the strongest, not by being the fastest, but by being the one who never gives up. That is what a warrior truly is. From the balcony above, Kryn watched, pride-filled. His ancient heart. Behind Danny, Myra and Brull stood with other cadets who had fought beside him that terrible day. They were the first generation of warriors who saw humans not as the soft ones, but as the unbreakable.